Stop following these relationship advice tips if you actually want to have a successful love life, or at least a romantic love life. Today, I'm diving into my top 10 worst relationship memes, quotes, pieces of advice, whatever, if you really want to have an emotional connection with your partner or get the spark back into your relationship. And actually, I'm adding a number 11, and this is my favorite piece of worst advice. So make sure to listen to the end because it's actually the one I'm the most passionate about. Hi everyone, Mireille Nicole here, a relationship coach for women who want to live their best life. I'm all about guiding you towards your happily ever after and tackling the tough stuff in love with wisdom and grace. I record these videos for you because I want to help you realize that you have so much more power in your current dating life, relationship, or marriage than you currently think. So I need to preface this video by giving you some context. So I am a huge romantic. I am all about the love stories. If you listen to my own love story video, I'll link to it here. You'll see that I was like totally inspired throughout my whole life with the BBC series Pride and Prejudice, that version specifically. Like that was my dream love life. And that is at the end of the day, what I ended up achieving. So I am all about helping you see that you can actually get what you dreamed of as a little girl when you have the right approach, the right tools, and the right skills. And what's driving me nuts nowadays is I see so much on social media and online quotes and gurus talking about relationship, different topics, and it's just so boring, so platonic, even overly clinical. And I feel like it's funny because we live in a day where we can totally have our head over heels, butterflies in the stomach, like love life. It is totally realistic. Like when you think of it back in the day, people got married, people got together, people were a couple, right? Men and women, because they had like a transactional need for it. The man went out and hunted and he protected, and the woman kind of stayed home and she took care of the kids and she gathered the food that was hunted and provided or whatnot, right? Nowadays, we don't have that need. As women, we can go out, we can work, we can make our own money, we can buy our own house, we can, protect ourselves in various different ways, we can provide for ourselves in so many different ways, whether it's for like basic survival needs or even emotional needs and beyond. So it drives me nuts when I see like all this stuff online about bringing us back to like the old days, or even I call it maybe like the dark ages in love, when it was really kind of like a survival thing, whereas now you can really make decisions from your heart. Now, obviously you have to like be careful with that. You don't want to ignore like red flags or some of the really obvious signs that maybe you shouldn't be with someone, but you really have the opportunity now to really go for that knight in shining armor, the true Prince Charming, the one, your person, whatever you call him. Okay, we're gonna dive in now, but first, let me tell you that you're gonna get the best relationship advice for getting that romantic love life that you desire in my ebook, The Aphrodite Approach. I'm gonna link to that in the description below. Okay, now let's explore the advice that can do more harm than good. Number 1, find a man who ... or wait for a man who ... Fill in the blank. I see these all the time. This has really positive intention to it, I have to admit. However, I find it super disempowering. But people love these quotes for some reason. The problem is it takes the responsibility off of us if we kind of misinterpret it or just take it as face value. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm all about showing you that you have so much more power in your relationship, in your dating life than you currently think. You don't have to wait for someone. My biggest realization in my own love life is that it takes more than just finding a partner. I love to share how I found my dream man, my current husband. However, I soon discovered that it takes more than just finding him, right? Because I had him and then I was like, okay, well, everything's going to be great now, right? He's this way and that way and he accepts me for this and for that. But then I started realizing that just relying on that piece of advice, our relationship started going downhill. And actually, we had to really work to get ourselves out of that, rut that we found ourselves in, because I was really just thinking that, hey, I found him. That's all I had to do. So watch out for that piece of advice. Number 2, marry your best friend. Oh, gross. Like, I hate this one so much. Like, I get it. You want the person you're with or your partner to have characteristics of a best friend, maybe, but to say marry your best friend, I mean, that to me is just so platonic, so boring. I don't need to marry my best friend. I have best friends and they fit a purpose in my life. I'm looking for my lover partner, my one and only, right? My person, the guy that sweeps me off my feet and gives me butterflies in my tummy. I've actually told my husband recently that he is not my best friend, just to set the record straight and explain that. And you know what? On the flip side, I don't want my husband to see me as his best friend. Sure, I want to have those characteristics of a best friend, but I want to be his goddess, right? His dream woman. Okay, number 3, marriage should be a true partnership. Now, the thing I don't like about this one is that it kind of implies like 50-50 and doing everything like together evenly. I don't know, it kind of brings that up for me. And one of the things I realized pretty quickly in my relationship and just even getting, professional guidance and advice on that myself is that there are some times in your relationship where you're going to have to do a little bit more, or your partner is going to have to do a little bit more. Maybe some days it's going to be, 70-30 or 90-10. Or do you know what? There are some days maybe neither one of you have the capacity, whether it's emotionally or physically, to contribute in any way. And you guys have to find some sort of other solution, right? So it's not always going to be a true partnership. And the other thing I find is partnership to me as someone who studied business in university, it sounds so businessy, right? It sounds like, a business partnership. Sure, I get it. Some relationship experts out there advise you do weekly meetings, which again sounds very business and so unromantic to me. I'm totally for doing check-ins with your partner, but when it starts being very formalized, and I get it, maybe if you're really rock bottom in your relationship, you need something structured, but once you're kind of getting out of that, really to bring that spontaneity back and romance and kind of natural flow, you might want to explore not being so rigid in terms of partnerships. Okay, number 4, it's not really a quote, but it's the whole idea of, did you try couples therapy? It seems like couples therapy is really the golden standard out there. Well, I would say it's definitely a golden standard, but it seems to be portrayed as the only solution all the time. And obviously I'm biased. I'm a relationship coach, but relationship coaching and couples therapy have 2 different agendas, so you speak, right? Totally 2 different approaches and purposes in terms of flipping around, a bad situation in your love life or a struggling relationship. And the thing is with couples therapy is obviously you need 2 people to be on board. And if you're in a situation like I was, where my partner at the time, my husband, back then boyfriend, wasn't on board with doing that, it felt really hopeless to me. So I really hate, I find it's really the worst advice out there when people are just oh, did you try couples therapy? Oh yeah, it didn't work. Oh, well, I guess it's not meant to be, because there are other avenues out there for you and they serve different purposes, and it's not necessarily hopeless. At the end of the day, it takes one person to change the dynamic in a relationship. And by the way, 75% of my own clients also do couples therapy at the same time they're doing relationship coaching with me. All right, number 5, communicate more. It's all about communication, right? That's the classic relationship advice. And there is so much truth in that, right? You want to be able to communicate with your partner, but the caveat to that is you have to be communicating effectively. So I think the worst advice is just saying communicate more, because if you guys aren't communicating properly, if you don't have the proper or effective or the best relation or communication skills, just communicating more of that is just going to dig a deeper hole for you guys, right? You're just going to be doing more harm than good. So I really encourage you, instead of following that advice of just communicating more or communicating a lot, really focus on communicating better. How can you improve your skills? Number 6, oh, this is a good one, a good worse one. He should love you for who you are, or if he loved you, ... right? This implies at the end of the day that, again, you don't have power over your relationship, or that you should just be able to lean back and it's going to work out if it's the right person. And hey, do you know what? Sometimes that might happen. But a lot of times I want you to really self-reflect on how you are showing up in your relationship. How are you behaving or acting? Are you actually being yourself? Because a lot of times we're acting out of, traumas, past hurts. We're acting out of, maybe we're getting taken over by our emotions. And that's not really who we're being, or who we are, I should say. That's who we're being. And your partner, doesn't necessarily have to love you for that, right? A really healthy man will not take it, right? If a person is acting out of trauma all the time, right? Or not working on themselves. So actually, you want to find a man who's not necessarily just going to tolerate anything, right? Or just love you for who you are in that case. I realized at the lowest point in my own relationship, I was being like super needy, independent. And you know what? That wasn't me. And at that point, right, I couldn't see what was going on. I hadn't had any kind of relationship guidance or advice. I was just following the memes and the quotes I saw on the internet. I was just kind of following friends and family's advice. I was actually not talking a lot about it because I was ashamed, right? But to expect my partner at the time to just like take me for who I am when I was being like needy and dependent, and you know what, that's not who I really was, wasn't necessarily fair. So in my case, the solution wasn't expecting that my partner would accept me for who I was, but the solution was for me to start finding who I was again, right? Coming back to my own independent state that I always was, like not independent as in avoidant, obviously in relationships, but coming back to who I truly was, who I knew I was deep down inside. Okay, number 7. I hear this one all the time, especially in the context of dating. It shouldn't have to be this hard. Okay, like obviously, if you're in a relationship and things are always going wrong and there are no good moments, okay, maybe that's not an indication that you guys aren't meant to be. But if you're having good moments and they're just hard patches, like that could be totally normal. Things were really hard in the beginning for me and my husband. We both, I was divorced. He left a long-term relationship. We had kids. We were trying to blend a family. We were co-parenting. There was some like high conflict co-parenting thrown in there too. Like there were really hard moments, but was there a lot of good? That is the question to also look at. Can you guys have fun together? Can you guys work to overcome obstacles? Because remember, good, strong, and healthy relationships have good moments and they have bad moments also, right? Like you talk to those couples who have been together for like 50 years and they'll say there were highs and lows, right? So really be careful again with that piece of advice out there. Number 8, never go to bed angry. Oh my God, I used to take this one to heart. And you know what? I realized later on in a relationship, it just wasn't working out for us. And I love this quote I saw online. It says, definitely go to bed mad. Everyone is a butthole. That's not the actual word, when they're tired and cranky. Find your perspective and your compassion tomorrow morning and then resume. And you know what? I hadn't heard that quote before, but that's exactly how it played out in my own relationship. After a while, I realized that, we weren't working things out before going to bed, and we were always better off talking about it the next day. So knowing that and doing emotional regulation work, after a while, I was able to go to sleep, even though before, right, it was keeping me up, right? When I was upset, I wanted to talk about it now. I wanted to take it off my chest, but I realized that wasn't working out for my partner. So now what we do is the next morning, we work through it, right? So I don't have to go through the whole day. I just have to work through the evening. And after a while, guys, with practice, you will fall asleep again. Because what happened is before, when I was following that worst piece of advice, is I was going to bed angry anyways, right? Because we were just actually building, like the argument was escalating and it was just getting worse. So you do you as a couple. Okay, number 9, you attract from the level you're at. I don't like this piece of advice, and this is actually something that was told to me by a therapist at one point. I find this one a little bit insulting, actually, right? And I think it's really important, especially nowadays, because there's just so much talk about healing and traumas. And yes, that's all valid. But at the same time, we have to realize that we're never going to be perfect and we can still attract amazing love from wherever we're at. And that's not necessarily like a bad thing. So I just want to give hope to you if you're like in a relationship and maybe you guys met at a point in your lives where things weren't going so good. You didn't know about, healing and all that work, because that was me, right? I didn't know about all this like personal development and healing stuff and when I found my dream man. But as a couple, we were able to work through it. And you know what? That just made us even stronger. So don't worry about if you're on the dating scene being perfectly healed. You can find that perfect person for you and you guys can keep doing that work together. And life's a journey anyways. You don't want to be healed. You're not going to be healed right away. Okay. That's the work of a lifetime is what I'm trying to say. Number 10 was supposed to be the last one, but not really the last one because I have a number 11. If it's meant meant to be, it will be. And I love the whole romantic notion behind that. However, again, I do find it to be disempowering because it can imply no action. Again, if you take it at face value, this is what we tend to picture for manifestation and just attracting the love of your life, but there's still action that's required. I have a whole playlist on manifestation. I'll link to it up here. If that's something you're interested in, I love manifestation, but it does require you to do certain things. And that's what's going to help you manifest faster and then keep the relationship strong after. Because like I was saying earlier, it's more than just finding your person. It's more than just manifesting your person. Like the real magic is then keeping that relationship, right? Helping it grow stronger and maintain itself. All right, time for the bonus. And that is love is not enough. I hate that one so much. Love is not enough. I couldn't disagree more with that. I think love is just the underpinning of everything. Without there being a foundation of love, what's the point of working on the relationship? What's the point of, becoming a better version of you in your relationship? What's the point of learning the skills and communicating more and doing all the things? What's the point of committing, 50 years of your life to someone, your whole life to someone, if you don't feel that true, deep love for them? Obviously, love is going to look different to everyone. We all have our own unique desire for what that feels like and what that looks like. But at the end of the day, guys, I'm sorry, but love is enough. Not only is love enough, but love is a requirement. If you want to learn more about creating your dream relationship, watch this next.